I wanted to achieve bigger goals which nobody else have achieved, especially from India. I don't want people to judge me on my color, on my race. I want to judge me on my skills, my wrestling abilities, my athleticism. My name is Bhupinder Singh. My ring name is Bhupinder Gujjar. Basically, I'm from Punjab, India. I grew up in a middle-class family. But my mom's side of family, they were well-established family as compared to my father's side of the family. I got influenced by my uncle, like my mom's younger brother. When I was growing up, I was look at him, I was like, okay, I want to be like him. But how? Because he was earning good money and I wasn't working, I was just studying. To chase, like, I wanted to be like him, then I was like, I wanted to do something different. But when I got graduate, then it's like, what I'm gonna do now? What's next? But I was at the same time, I'm training, and I was in bodybuilding and kickboxing. I was trying hard to get somewhere, but nothing was happening. That's the time when I was like, okay, I'm gonna try professional wrestling. Pro wrestling, like, I used to watch as a kid, but in India, becoming a professional wrestler, it's a big dream because we didn't have any opportunities back then.
What you're getting when you turn on the TV is wrestling that's produced in the US, Canada, or other places. There's not a lot of actual professional wrestling going on in the country of India. So if there's not a lot of people there that have done it, there's not a lot of people there that can teach it, because if there's 10 people that have done it, there's maybe one that's gonna be able to teach it well.
So when I had my wrestling school, I get emails all the time from people from India, and it's like, how do I come over? So, well, there's a visa process. It's not that easy.
They pretty much got to leave home, because there's not much happening back in India in terms of international wrestling. You pretty much got to be on television. You got to be on one of those promotions in order to get recognition in India.
In professional wrestling, one of the things that draws to us is we look for people that we relate to. And Gama Singh was somebody in a world, wrestling at the time, it was, I guess literally, it was very black and white. And Gama was one of the people who introduced brown, which I think is a fact in professional wrestling history that sadly gets overlooked far too much.
There was a lot of support from the Indian market in those countries where I was portrayed as a hero. Like I said, in Trinidad, Jamaica is another one, South Africa, Australia, Middle Eastern countries. A lot of Indian support, majority of it was.
I never made the tours with them, but I had a few friends that did, and they're like, you have no idea how big Gama is. It's like Gama Singh was just this giant thing.
I made such an impact with the crowds in those countries that it was unbelievable. Even the wrestlers would come up to me and say, we have never seen anyone as popular as you. And it was to a point where people believed wrestling so much at that time that if I was to ever lose in the ring, the crowd would storm the ring, there would be chaos. In Canada, there was a lot of support as well, but because I portrayed as a villain, people would threaten me. There would be letters sent to the promotion, or phone calls were made to the promotion that if we see him on the street, we're going to do this to him, we're going to do that to him, we're going to stab him, so on. There was all kinds of threats made on my life.
In the history of professional wrestling, if you were a foreigner wrestling in the United States, for a lot of times you were considered the bad guy.
Wrestling has traditionally played on stereotypes.
If you think about the stereotypes of professional wrestling, what is all stereotypes based upon? Fear. It's fear of the unknown, fear of something that is different to me.
Indian and foreign characters were basically the foreign menace. That's what we were typecast in. And as fun as it was to watch, quite frankly, it is a little frustrating.
What's the quickest, easiest way to get an emotional response out of someone? If you're a big, ugly guy, it's like, all right, he'll be a big ogre heel. And if you're an Indian guy or a Chinese guy or a German guy, a percentage of your audience is going to have a preconceived notion. And I think it's lazy, and I think the wrestling industry went the easy route for a long time.
We're more than just being a quote-unquote evil terrorist, evil terrorizer character. We're heroes for other people in the world. We're portrayed as the villains all the time, the foreign menace, but we're heroes in so many people's eyes. That's why it's frustrating, because we don't really truly get that opportunity to show that we could be on the good side of things.
India is a huge population, so you need representation over there. And with guys like my son Raj, Bhupinder, they are being well represented and they can perform, which is very important. So the Indian people will be quite proud of that. Now it's quite possibly Bhupinder's turn, but he can do it. It shouldn't be too difficult, like I said, but he just got to look the part.
I'm from a society where people are looking at you like, okay, what this kid is doing, because that's something different. People, whenever they hear like I'm doing pro wrestling, they were like, okay, that's something unique. So what your job? What are you gonna do? So I was like, I want to be a professional wrestler. I remember I just, went to my father and I told him like I wanted to move to Canada for my further studies. And he was like, are you sure? Because you are into doing these sports and you are making these decisions which you end up nowhere. So this is the big decision. If you go to Canada, there is no sense you're coming back.
I was struck by the fact that this guy picked up and moved his entire life from India to Canada. No friends, no family, nothing.
This was a big risk for him, and actually at first it didn't quite pay off. There was a lot of setbacks and there was no guarantee that he was going to be doing what he's doing today. And even through those setbacks, he wouldn't take no for an answer, and he wasn't going to let those sacrifices be for nothing.
I was training, I was into school, I was working 20 hours as a security guard. So that was a lot.
I just think about the fact of how many days he must have had, or nights where he sat there and probably questioned his decisions.
I remember that was a cold days and I was walking and I was almost kind of, crying like why I moved here, like why. Then I got a message from Scott Demore. He wanted to talk to me about wrestling and want to meet.
As I'm talking to Bhupinder, I realize he has no idea where he is.
Scott asked me like, where do you live? So I was brand new to the city, so I was like, I don't know where I am.
And I basically had to sort of ask him, like, what surrounds you?
I was like, I can see only the bridge and the McDonald's.
And I'm like, I know exactly where you are.
So we made a plan and I went there and Scott was like, that's your contract. Read it, take your time, take a day or two, sign it and send it to me. That was the life-changing decision. These two decisions changed my life, like moving to Canada and then meeting Scott and talking about the wrestling stuff.
Bhupinder decided he was going to sign that contract, he was going to get his butt in the dojo here, and he was going to start training to chase his dream.
And I started training and I remember like Scott was treating me like his own kid. Scott is my wrestling father.
Jump up, straight up here, straight up here, straight up.
CanAm is kind of different than any other school in the sense that you don't just get pushed through. You're forced to work very, very hard. And if you don't work hard, you don't last around here.
We feel strongly on working on the mind and the mental aspect of the game as much as we do the physical.
You don't move to the next step until you've accomplished that other one. We feel safe moving forward to that next step. So you can train here for 6 months and you can get your first match and be green lit, or you can train here for 3 years and never get your green light because you just haven't been able to accomplish all those steps.
Jump as high as you can, up.
You have to be able to think on your feet and you have to be able to protect yourself in case anything does go wrong. If you have that old school mentality, you can kind of power through because sometimes you'll take a punch and the guy doesn't really mean to throw it as hard as he does, but you got to be able to get through it and get through the rest of the match.
We don't let anybody out of the school that doesn't hold our name to the standard that we stand by.
I remember whenever Scott used to be come to in a ring or like he was watching, I got super nervous. If whatever I have learned, everything poof, blank.
You don't need no more fucking room. Don't tell him where to go. He's been wrestling for fucking 15 years. You haven't. Made him events in goddamn arenas and tell him where to stand.
Bhupinder definitely has a lot of respect. Even through the pandemic where there wasn't a whole lot of training, Bhupinder and one other guy was just go in there and keep going through the motions. Every single time I went in there, he improved and improved and improved and improved.
He would go to school all day. He would have his normal job, and then he would come in here. And some nights I would tell him, dude, you don't gotta come in every night. We can, give you a night off or take a break. No, Princey, I'm coming. No, Princey, I'm coming.
Because of professional wrestling, I was traveling, I was training, I was working, job, studies. There was a whole lot of things of going on. So my social life almost got like zero, like I had nobody. That was like the time when I felt like I'm just alone.
Personal relationships, friendships, relationships, they do take a hit because we are so devoted. Finding the perfect partner is the hard part.
I was dating a girl. She was my support system, and she was like, okay, Bhupinder, if you are doing it, just give you 100%. I'm with you. But she was in India. She was far from me. You can say, hey, my boyfriend is doing this, hey, he's doing that. But when it's time to take a stand that, are you really married to a professional wrestler? That was the time when she was the first person who kind of back off from my life.
You're asking someone to live this crazy life with you that we don't know is going to pan out. It's the wrestling business, so it can end at any time.
I knew that I'm going to make it, but how can I explain her? Because I was telling her from years, and now she was like, I don't think you're going to make it. And she just quit on me, and she just left me alone. And it was over 5 years of relationship. So that was a big shock for me. Like, you know, you're talking to that person like every morning, every night, or during the day. And what happened, like that person is totally gone from your life.
She gave it to me, this watch. She said I'm never gonna make it.
Unfortunately, in any industry where you have to travel so much and be away so much, it puts a strain on relationships.
My support system got collapsed. I was down, but then the other me was like, Bhupinder, what are you doing? You left everything for professional wrestling, and this is your biggest test of your life, and now you are failing it.
And this is a big reminder that I have to keep going. Keep going. I have to be the best in the business.
Bhupinder was the type that I hope that he was talking to other people, but he would come here and shut that off.
Maybe it's funny for you guys, but I think I made two personalities of me. One, a guy who's saving myself. So I was like, okay, you wanna cry? You can cry, but first, let's go to gym, do your wrestling training, and then after that you have whole night or day to cry. You can cry. I think there was a couple of times I was just find a switch and on and off. I was just switching off my feelings and I'm just working out and using all my aggression in a ring.
I used wrestling to go out of all that stuff. There are so many times this place saved me. That's why I love this place.
We always say something clicks, and once it clicked for Bhupinder, he started developing so fast.
I have spent countless hours in this ring. When the world shut down, this place was still open for me.
For Bhupinder, the pandemic actually might have helped him a little bit. It gave him a little time to grow as a person.
There was a couple of days I was just sitting here alone. Couldn't do anything, but I was just sitting here because I just wanted to be here. It feels like home.
Growing as a person gives you a confidence, and that confidence carries over when you go on the stage. You go out on that stage, or you go out to the ring.
Definitely I was happy to be here, but I think I'm just going to work as a heel. So I was preparing myself for that, and when I got here and boom, they were like, you're a babyface here.
Making his way to the ring from Punjab, India, this is Bhupinder Gujjar.
I was really happy the first time I saw the presentation with Bhupinder. I think the first one, there was that moment of, you know, where he's coming out. It's like, oh, well, they'll just put him with Raj and Shira, because let's put the Indian guys together. And when they didn't, and I'm like, that's awesome.
You're starting to see the real Bhupinder be incorporated a little more into the performance. And I think that's perfect, because we don't need to have every Indian walking around with a turban.
For someone like Bhupinder to come out here and not be judged, not be put in this stereotypical gimmick, and get over on his hard work, that speaks volumes for him.
If I'm coming out of the curtains, I don't want people to judge me on my color, on my race. I want you to judge me on my skills, my wrestling abilities, my athleticism.
Being Indian isn't his gimmick. It just happens to be part of his backstory. It's who he is. He's just a young kid trying to be a wrestler. It's got to be really refreshing to just see a kid on TV that gets to be himself, and he's not playing what other people think Indian people are, that he's actually representing what Indian people really are. And I think that's awesome and refreshing. And it's nice to know that the wrestling industry isn't always just going to take the easiest path of least resistance.
Professional wrestling is at its best when it's analogous of the human condition. It's not about the characters per se, it's about the story, and it's about being able to connect with the fans. It's not just about wanting to watch them, it's about feeling like they could be that person in the ring. So anybody that felt like they overcome a certain stereotype or they've overcome certain setbacks, they can live in that moment through that wrestler, and that's when wrestling is at its best.
There's a lot of work for Bhupinder. I kind of know what Bhupinder's goal is. We all have that same goal. Bhupinder has it different in the sense of he represents an entire nation.
It's a responsibility, but not a burden on my shoulder. Like, I don't take it as a burden, because if you're loving what you're doing, it's not a burden.
Man, I have a big match tonight, and I'm excited, but nervous also. I really wanted to win this and wear. I don't think any Indian wrestler win any belt in this promotion before in Impact Wrestling.
A real defining moment when we look back on Bhupinder's early career is going to be that ladder match in Dallas, Texas against Brian Myers.
It's a very big opportunity. He's in there in a match that get a lot of eyes on it, no matter who's involved. It's the favorite match for a lot of people in the industry. It's tough for me to think about what kind of nerves he's having because I haven't had this kind of match on this stage.
I can sacrifice anything. That's the only thing I can see in front of me. I was like, professional wrestling. At one point of time, I was asking myself, like, are you ready to die in a ring? Yes.
Veterans struggle to perform in ladder matches. He's still at a point in his career where he's got the butterflies in his stomach every night that he goes out there. That had to be nerve-wracking.
I'm representing a big country, 1.3 billion of people watching me, and I have a big responsibility too. Because I don't want to say people like, hey, this guy is just here by luck, by chance. I want to prove every single person that I'm here because of my hard work, because of my talent. If people look at me, I want to earn their respect. I want to listen from them like, yes, this guy deserves to be here. People said I'm never going to make it. I don't match standards. Just want to say, I'm going to make it. I'm going to prove myself. I'm going to show who I am.
Introducing first the challenger from Punjab, India, Bhupinder Gujjar.
There's a lot of work for him because, again, he's very young, and this is a very tough job to get good at. He's going to have to find himself as a performer, as a wrestler, and then also find that balance of not just connecting with an Indian audience, but connecting with the entire audience.
I think a defining moment in that match, you see it as clear as day, when he breaks his nose.
If you show them what you got, people's opinions change.
It's a moment where he faced real physical adversity. To have your nose broke, to be there, to like taste your own blood and then keep going. It was good for him because he got through that and he gutted through that and he went out there and focused and did great.
That just goes to show that the next guy who's in there, heaven forbid something goes wrong, they know he's not gonna fumble, he's gonna keep going.
So that's a moment and a bond he created with the fans. And the other thing was, I think he earned the respect of a lot of people.
And I think he's primarily being true to himself, which eventually will seep out and the audience will feel that.
You said it. I'm never gonna make it. I don't match your standards. Today I showed who the fuck I am. You fucking left me. Thank you for doing that. Now I'm not gonna stop. I'm going to be the best. Be the best in the business.
Way to be tough, way to hang in there, work your ass off. That's amazing. You showed me so much in that match that I know some vets who've been in the business 10 years don't do. Good for you.
In the journey to be a pro wrestler, I learned a lot. It teach me more discipline and to be professional.
Hey, you held it together. Proud of you.
Bhupinder and pro wrestling are synonymous because you can see he wants it. It's not forced effort. Nobody told him he had to do this. He wanted to do it out of his heart.
People say it's fake. The whole this area is like, I can't feel anything for now. It's okay. Never gonna forget this feeling because I have earned this spot.
You have to have a thick skin to survive in this business, and hopefully he will, because again, I do see a lot in him.
Wrestling is going to be in good hands, especially it's going to motivate people, again, in our community to want to be the next Bhupinder Gujjar.
It's worth it because that's my passion. Like coming out from the curtain and everybody was going to clap for me. That was my dream and I did it. Like, and first 6 months after getting signed with Impact Wrestling, everybody cheer for me, clap for me. That's why it's all worth it. That's my passion and I did it.
Pro wrestling has helped Bhupinder grow immensely. It's given him a focus. Bhupinder knows where he wants to be.
I wanted to achieve bigger goals, which nobody else have achieved, especially from India. I'm happy what I'm doing. I'm grateful and thankful what I'm doing, but I'm not satisfied because I know that I can do more big stuff. I can do better and better.
You look at what professional wrestling's done for him. He's moved halfway around the world. He's graduated from college. He's got a job, and he's created an entire new ecosystem, a family, a support network here in that country. So if nothing else, you look at everything he's accomplished so far, and a good part of that is because of wrestling. That's what's brought him here. That was the driving force to motivate him, and that was the tool that's allowed him to do a lot of that.
One of the biggest saying is in India, it's like it's a one-way ticket. You are just going by your will, but you don't know when you're coming back. And that's true. Whenever I go back there, I saw my mom. She looked older. My father looked older. Family changed. When you earn all these opportunity and make something out of it, then it's not easy to let them go and just move back. So that's tough. Working as a professional wrestler, especially in Western countries, if it belongs to India, it's a big deal. It's a big deal. And it's tough, it's hard, no doubt. It's tough. I think that's life. Be strong. This is life. Just accept it. We have to earn every single thing in our life. That's what I'm doing.